touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, welcome into The Process Crimson Tide Recruiting. I'm your host, Justin Smith, scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for another episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube page. We are here usually each week to break down the latest of Crimson Tide football recruiting news. Now, in today's episode, we have a lot to get into because actually earlier this week, I was able to travel to Mobile, Alabama to check out some of the practices from the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. Got an opportunity to catch up with some Alabama commits, some Alabama targets who are committed elsewhere as well, and I will talk about that on this episode of The Process. Also talk about a transfer portal update surrounding the Crimson Tide and discuss some guys who are set to officially visit the Crimson Tide on this weekend. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into it. Starting with the transfer tight end. The Crimson Tide lost some players to the transfer portal, but they're going to try to pull some guys in. As we all know, Nick Saban and Alabama's coaching staff is going to shop inside the transfer portal, and it looks as if they are going to have their eyes on a tight end. And one guy who they're looking at is CJ Dupree, a Maryland tight end out of Pennsylvania. Originally was a three-star recruit out of Pennsylvania, went to Maryland, played there a couple of years. This past season, he played in 12 games, pulled in 30 receptions for more than 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. You guys can pull up some of his highlights from Maryland up on YouTube, and he looked pretty impressive. 6'5", 260 pounds. He moves really well. It's a video where he hurdled an Ohio State player in one play, and he looked pretty solid. As you guys can see on his high school film, he's a guy who has a physical background, played defensive end, full block at times at the high school football level, was an aggressive physical blocker. He's the type of tight end that Nick Saban wants on Alabama's roster. Whenever I talk about tight ends, I always discuss, when you look at them at the high school football level, a lot of high school teams like to throw them out at wide receiver and say, yo, look what my tight end can do at wide receiver. Imagine what he will be able to do at the next level. That's cool, that's pretty, and that's great, but you're going to have to be a complete tight end to play at the next level and in the NFL. Look at the NFL on Sundays. Most of those guys are those traditional big tight ends. Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski. Of course, he's not in the NFL right now, but he's going to go down as one of the better tight ends, one of the more successful tight ends in college football. And those guys are guys who can block, big physical guys. Look as if they should be on the basketball court with the frame that they possess. And I think CJ Dupree is one of those guys who fall into that category, and he is set to officially visit Alabama this weekend. He did confirm that with me earlier today, so the Tide will get him on campus, and I think he's the type of tight end that Alabama has been looking for over the last couple of seasons, trying to make sure that they pull in tight ends who can help them possibly right now, because when you look at their roster, who they are returning, I think those guys still need to develop some more. I really like what we've seen out of Robbie Oops, so I think he has some potential, but it looks as if the Crimson Tide really like him as a fullback, H-back type of tight end. So we'll see what happens with Oops and the rest of Alabama's tight end group, as CJ Dupree will officially visit Alabama this weekend. The Maryland transfer tight end who is currently in the transfer portal. Like I said earlier, I did have an opportunity to travel to Mobile earlier this week to check out some practices at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star event, and I was able to catch up with some Alabama commits and some Alabama targets who are committed to other schools at the moment, including 4-star athlete Tyrion Perkins out of Raleigh High School in Mississippi, one of the top athlete prospects in the 2023 recruiting class, and he's currently verbally committed to the Ole Miss Rebels. An opportunity to catch up with him after one of the practices just to get a gauge on how Alabama is recruiting him. He said he feels that they're still recruiting him pretty hard. They are in constant contact with him, talk with him every day. He actually talked to Pete Golding before he traveled to Mobile to participate in the event. Pete Golding actually and some members of Alabama's coaching staff came to his high school a day before he came down to the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star event. He is also in constant contact with the Ole Miss coaching staff. Of course, they're going to try to keep him committed as long as possible, hopefully sign on National Signing Day. He does plan, at this moment at least, to sign a national letter of intent in December, later this month, during the early signing period on National Signing Day, but he does not plan to enroll early, wants to enroll during the summer. I think you need to keep that in mind because that opens the door for him to possibly hold off his decision if he wants to. Not saying he's going to do that. He can do that if he wants to, because he's the guy who's going to enroll in the summer. If he wants to hold off and sign possibly during the traditional signing period, that is something that he could possibly do. I say keep that in mind because when I talk with him, he seems to be a little bit torn, I would say. Whatever decision he makes, if he does sign later this month, it seems as if it's going to be a hard decision for him. If he stays with Ole Miss, turning to Alabama, because he said he does have a great relationship with them, he knows what that program represents. I feel like it's going to be a tough decision to stay with Ole Miss. Also feel it's going to be a tough decision to jump ship to Alabama, just based on him being committed to the Rebels so long. His relationship with Ole Miss's coaching staff showing him so much love. Pete Golden was at a state championship game, but Lane Kiffin was there as well. So it's going to be a tough one, a tight battle. I think his recruitment is one to pay attention to as things start to develop a little bit more heading into National Signing Day, with it being a couple of weeks away here at this particular point in time. I also had an opportunity to watch Peter Woods in action once again. I've seen Woods so many times throughout his high school career, including like 2 or 3 times during a football season. One time when Thompson played Bruford, Thompson played the school out of Tennessee, which they were beaten by. Also, when they played Clay Chalkville, I was in attendance for all of those matchups. And Peter Woods has been dominant all year. But I watched him in his Alabama Mississippi All-Star practices, and he was incredibly dominant. I mean, Team Alabama could not run plays because he was basically in the backfield every play, which brings me to the conversation that Alabama, in my opinion, needs to throw everything that they can throw at him to try to get him to Tuscaloosa in the future. He's locked into Clemson, though. That is something that he's still saying. He's locked in, comfortable with his decision. He speaks with Alabama's coaching staff, speaks with Alabama's defensive line coach, Freddie Roach, saying it's more of a relationship thing because Freddie Roach is always going to be his guy. That is something he's been saying over the last couple of weeks. Nick Saban is on the road, traveling all across the country, checking on so many kids. I think Nick Saban has to pull up on Peter Woods a couple of times if he needs to. If Peter Woods up for that, that is what I would do if I was Alabama. Just try to throw that one last late push, hopefully, that you can get in his ear to let him possibly just think about his decision. Like I said, Clemson is getting a great player, great young man off the field, just a great all-around young man, great all-around kid who, like I said, projected to head to Clemson at this moment. But if I was Alabama, you make that late push. But a guy who Alabama currently has a commitment from is Yunze Pierre, 4-star outside linebacker out of Eufaula High School in Eufaula, Alabama. Had a big year for Eufaula, explosive off the edge. We had an opportunity to watch him live in action. Be sure to check out that video on our YouTube. But Pierre is going to participate in this week's event as well, as the game will kick off Saturday at around noon. The game will be broadcast on NFHS Network if you guys want to view it. But Pierre was looking really good. I think if you are going to be able to watch this game, you're going to get an opportunity to see his position versatility because he's projected to be an outside linebacker at the next level. The Crimson Tide want to play him at that jack outside linebacker position. That is a position that they constantly have been talking with them about. Just want to use him as a edge rusher, use that speed, add on some weight to his frame, of course, but let him get after the quarterback. I think that is something that they really like out of him in terms of what he can do right now. But as you guys can see on this video that we are showing you now, Team Alabama is using him as an inside linebacker and as an edge rusher this week. So we're going to see him play standing up, playing off the ball, and we're going to see him play in space. And I think if he's able to do that, show some position versatility, that's going to be another strength of his as he's set to head to Tuscaloosa in the summer. He will not early enroll, but he does plan to sign a national letter of intent later this month. I did talk with him about his official visit to Alabama, which he took on last weekend. Said it was a great visit. He had an opportunity to actually ride shotgun with Nick Saban, and Saban pulled the Mercedes out. Had an opportunity to chill with Saban, and Saban's family went to Nick Saban's house as well. So great time in Tuscaloosa for Yunze Pierre. Said he feels even more locked in with the Crimson Tide after that official visit. Bryson Hubbard is another guy I had an opportunity to watch earlier this week. Hubbard is a 2023 athlete out of Ocean Springs High School in Mississippi, currently verbally committed to the Crimson Tide. Was a star quarterback for Ocean Springs throughout his high school career. Actually is the reigning back-to-back Class 6A Mr. Football for the state of Mississippi. Was dynamic once again, like I said, as a quarterback, but the Crimson Tide wants him to be a safety at the next level. I had an opportunity to see him earlier this week. He did not play safety, of course, as you guys can see. He's going to be one of the quarterbacks for Team Mississippi. I'm not going to come on here and say that he was throwing the football all over the yard and looked like the best thing since sliced bread, but he looked really good at quarterback when I saw him earlier this week. In my opinion, I think he could be a quarterback at the next level if a program was willing to work with him, continue to help him grow as a quarterback, and him working on his mechanics and everything. I think he can be a legit quarterback prospect, but he's super athletic. That is why the Crimson Tide are projected to play him at safety, because he's a fast, explosive athlete. Could possibly be a Major League Baseball player if he wanted to. That's just the type of athleticism that he possesses. But like he always says, like what we heard, the Crimson Tide want him to be a safety, but we'll see what happens once he gets to Tuscaloosa. He did tell me he's not even worried about where he plays. He knows that Alabama's coaching staff is going to put him in the best position possible. So he's confident in Alabama. He's just ready to get to Tuscaloosa as an early enrollee and find his position and master his craft. So you're going to need guys like that on your roster. And I think Hubbard is a nice pickup for the Crimson Tide, with them coming in with that attitude, with what is in front of him. But like I said also at the beginning of this show, Alabama is expected to have another great weekend of visitors, official visitors, including James Smith and Quay Russo. How can we not have a show without talking about these two? We talk about them every show, every week. We talk about them, I feel like, for every show over the last couple of months. And deservingly so, as I always say, because they're dominant 5-star recruits in Alabama's backyard out of Carver High School in Montgomery, Alabama. Of course, they still have that top 6. Alabama State, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Ohio State. You take Ohio State out, really, they haven't visited Ohio State. Seem to have a great relationship with members of Ohio State's coaching staff at one point, but I'll take Ohio State out of the mix at the moment. Continue to look at Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia in particular, I would say. Of course, Auburn is putting on the full court pressure with them having a coach now. For a moment, they weren't in heavy contact with the pair, because there was nothing really to say, because they were unsure about the future of their program in terms of who their head coach would be. But now that they have Hugh Freeze as their head coach, and I think with Cadillac Williams on campus, I think that bodes well for the Auburn football program. So Auburn is trying their best. Alabama is trying their best as well to close on these guys. I know that there are rumors out there, multiple reports out there, that Charles Kelly is going to jump ship to join Deion Sanders in Colorado as the Buffs defensive coordinator. Charles Kelly has been very involved with both of these guys, so we'll see how that impact Alabama's chances. But I know they both have a relationship with Freddie Roach as well, both have a relationship with Nick Saban as well. So this one is going to be interesting heading out of stretch. I think the Tide are in a really strong position. A great official visit to really help Alabama lock up things. And even if I know this for a fact, they're going to take an official visit to Alabama, but after this official visit, I wouldn't expect this to be the last time that they see Saban. I think Saban will try to possibly go in on with them after the visit, which is something we've seen him do with Curtis Perry. I think he did it beforehand. Matter of fact, Curtis Perry was going to take an official visit before. He was going to take an official visit in December, and Nick Saban visited him, I think, a couple of days before in December around this same time. So hopefully things could work out in a similar fashion. All three of them are Montgomery natives. When you take a look at Curtis Perry, James Smith, and Quay Russo. So Alabama hoping that they can do the same and possibly pull in Quay Russo and James Smith, both 5-star prospects out of Carver, Montgomery. The last guy I want to talk about today is Ariana Carter, a guy who Alabama actually went in home with. Alabama's head coach Nick Saban and Eric Wolford visited Carter earlier this week during an in-home visit, an opportunity to travel to Tennessee, check on him, showing that interest, showing that they are serious, that we really want you in Tuscaloosa. Then Carter is set to go from Tennessee to Alabama this weekend for his official visit. Of course, he's visited Alabama several times since picking up an offer from the Crimson Tide earlier this season. I feel that the Tide are in the driver's seat to land his commitment. I think this weekend will help the Crimson Tide seal things up. So we'll see what happens with all those guys set to officially visit. But this is what I want to talk about on this episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Then head over to touchdownalabama.com, pick up your subscription today. As always, I am Justin Smith, scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.
Process.